honestly was I don't know what to do. My wife's pregnant, going off to work. I don't know what to do. I don't have a job because I had to leave. It was just too stressful for me. And I just really, again, you go back to my 14-year-old making a promise of what I'm going to do. I'm going to set myself up for success with my kids. And here, I don't even have a job, and my wife's going off and she's pregnant. And so it was a gut punch for me.
It starts with just taking that leap.
Man, you have to work hard. You have to be incredibly smart.
Choose something that even if it fails, you are going to be proud of it.
Doesn't matter how badly you got beaten in battle.
Be kind, be kind, be kind.
Become a better person, a better leader, with a better business.
Go with your gut.
I'm Samuel Donner, and this is Finding Founders. As kids, a lot of us vow to never be like our parents. We want to learn from their mistakes and do things differently and improve the formula for raising good humans. But that's easier said than done. Coming out of a grueling job with no backup plan, Rob Kenney felt unsure about his ability to be a family man. In the back of his mind, he recalled his wish to provide a secure home environment for his kids and felt that he was miles away from this vision. Fast forward to 2022, and we can hardly believe that Rob had doubts about being a good father. Mainly because, well, he's become the internet's dad. Starting his YouTube channel, Dad How Do I, during the early months of the pandemic, Rob Kenney has since garnered 4 million subscribers with his straightforward tutorials and kind, instructive demeanor. Much like his videos, Rob's mantra is simple but packed with meaning. He emphasizes the importance of sticking by your values in tough times and following through on your mission statement, not just for yourself, but for the people who depend on you. After all, he remembers what it was like to feel stranded without friends and without a father. Could you take me back to when you were around 12, when your parents actually separated? We'll get back to the podcast right after this break. Business Made Simple, hosted by Donald Miller, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Hosted by Donald Miller, Business Made Simple takes the mystery out of growing your business. One of my favorite episodes is about how you can create a subscription model for your business. Like, what if you had recurring revenue that covered most, if not all, of your monthly expenses? Anything on top of that would be pure profit and maybe money towards that yacht. So if your business is seasonal or has highly fluctuating monthly cash flow, a subscription model could help you stabilize your revenue stream and cover your monthly overhead. So listen to Business Made Simple wherever you get your podcasts. And now, back to the podcast.
Yeah, just to be fair, my parents started out really well. I always feel like I want to say that. And then also, not to jump ahead, but at the very end, I reconciled with my dad. Yeah, so I'm one of 8 kids, and I'm number 7. And by the time I was born, I was actually born in New Orleans. Our family started out in Wichita. The first 6 kids were born in Kansas, and then we moved to New Orleans, where I was born. And then we moved up here 2 years later, up to Seattle, because my dad worked for Boeing, and we kind of followed Boeing. And Boeing dried up in Wichita, and then he went to New Orleans for the space program, then came up here for the 747. All that to say, I think it took a toll on my mom. And so she got uprooted from her family because she was one of 12. And I think she pictured herself, raising her kids with all of her siblings' kids and us kind of being one big community. And that didn't happen. And so it really took a toll on my mom. And so my mom turned to alcohol. She struggled with anxiety, and I've been open about my struggle with anxiety too, because I want to expose that and encourage people and destigmatize it because of how it affected my mom. My mom didn't get good help. It was back in the 70s.
How did that show up for you when you were a kid? Do you remember any things that when you were growing up, maybe something's wrong?
Yeah, there was some tough times. I could definitely tell that something was wrong. And when you're a kid, you're a kid, and then you, oh, wait a second, this isn't normal. Normal, what is normal? But there were some things that were pretty dysfunctional going on in our family. And then, when I was 12 or 13 years old, my dad got custody of us. They separated, and my dad got custody of us, but he didn't really want us. I think he felt like it was the right thing to do. And my mom wasn't allowed to even come around. He got a restraining order.
What did you think of that growing up, like as a kid?
You know, honestly, it was embarrassing. Our house was a little bit of a chaos, you know, chaotic. People would say, hey, you know, come over to my house. Oh yeah, I'll come over to your house sometime. I don't really want you coming over to my house because it's, you know, it's embarrassing.
So when did your dad, like, I guess, take a further step back?
It's interesting because I think, you know, our bodies are and our minds are pretty amazing because they protect us from from certain trauma that you go through. And so I feel like I remember it, but I don't know if I really remember it the exact time. But I in my mind, I think I remember where he came home and we were all around. And I think there was some sort of birthday party going on. And that's when he just basically said, you know, I'm done raising kids. The older siblings are going to have to take the younger ones in, or they're going to foster care.
Yeah. So how, like, what were the next steps? Like, what did your older siblings do?
Yeah, thankfully my brother Rick stepped up. He's 9 years older than me, and he took me in, him and his wife. He was a newlywed at that time, and they had plans for the future. You know, you know, at the time I thought they were old, I guess, but you know, my brother was 23 and my sister-in-law was 24. You know, they're just kids. My son's 27, and I can't imagine him having a teenager moving in with him. So, you know, it's all relative, I guess. But they're both, him and his wife, great people, and they're mature beyond their years. And they took me in. We lived in I always have called it a mobile home, but it really was a glorified trailer. It was an 8x35 trailer, and my brother built a shelf in the back of the trailer, and that's where I slept.
I guess maybe can you like lead me up to when you were about to have your own children? Because you had a career at Boeing. You also were working at this like audiovisual rental business. And so if you could like quickly lead me up to what was happening when your wife was pregnant.
Yeah, that was tough. So I worked at Boeing for a time, and that's where I met my wife, Anna Lee, and we hit it off really well. And but then I was struggling with because I didn't have a college degree. I left college early, and so I didn't have the degree. And Boeing really looks heavy on the degree, and so I wasn't moving up fast enough. Let me rephrase that. I actually moved up pretty fast, but the money wasn't coming. So they were promoting me, and then I ended up being a lead of 9 people and people with degrees working under me, and I was fixing their work, and they were making twice as much as me. And so I couldn't just...
How is that fair? How does that make sense?
It doesn't. It's just an old school mentality of, you know, you need the education. That's how Boeing, you know...
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was very frustrating for me.
Did you ever talk to like management about that? Or like this guy is doing less work and like worse work than me and is getting twice my pay. Like
I was
what did they say to
fixing
that?
his work. Because we were doing digital wiring diagrams, and he would do the diagram, and then I'd run a program that would check it, and then I'd have to log in, fix his work, and I was making half of what he was making, and so that didn't sit well with me, and I was like, I got to look for something else. So yeah, I did try to talk to management, but there's so much red tape at Boeing, you know, on a big company like that. They do things a certain way. You know, thankfully we've come a long way since then, because that was, you know, the late 80s.
So what did you look for instead?
Yeah, there was a lady that I worked with that her husband was doing this audiovisual company, and he, you know, they talked about long hours and stuff, but big payoff at the end. And it started off that way, and then it turned south pretty quick. Without getting into details, it was not good, and I finally had to just leave. And that's when was a turning point in my life, because I ended up becoming a Christian at that time, because I cried out, and I was honestly was at I don't know what to do. My wife's pregnant, going off to work. I don't know what to do. I don't have a job because I had to leave. It was just too stressful for me. And I just really, you know, again, you go back to my 14-year-old making a promise of what I'm going to do. You know, I'm going to set myself up for success with my kids. And here, I don't even have a job, and my wife's going off and she's pregnant. And so it was a gut punch for me. And so as a skeptic, I was raised, I went to Catholic school when I was little, And when I went away to college, I didn't continue that. Let's keep it that way, where I just kind of did whatever I wanted, and so from a skeptic's perspective, I cried out to God, and I feel like he answered my prayer. And so that changed the direction of my life, and the doors started opening. And there was an issue with my daughter possibly having Down syndrome, and that was it's like, oh my goodness, all these things that I've built are kind of coming where they're out of my control, and I'm floundering here, and things kind of started falling into place.
What were you most worried about happening?
Well, I think without having the parental support, like with my kids, I tell them to take risks. We got you. You go out and take risks. Where I always felt like my wife or myself, don't really have didn't have the parental support behind us to kind of undergird you if you fell on your face. Where would I go? I had friends and stuff, but that's, you'd have to humble yourself and go find ways to work around it.
So what did you start to do to, I guess, like create some more solidity?
Things started working out, and my daughter ended up being healthy, and I found a job that in sales. Which is funny because I'm a bit of an introvert. But I was desperate, and I was like, it was a company that I actually worked at out of high school, Olympic Office Supply. They're no longer in business, but then they said, we don't have a job for you, but we create a job. If you want to get into sales, we're willing to take a chance on you. I'm like, I'll take it. I just need, I need work. And so, yeah. And then it ended up working out okay.
You made this promise to yourself when you were 14, like, I'm going to be a good father. So what are the frameworks that you created for yourself to do that effectively?
One thing that's popped into my head with this whole Dad, How Do I thing was I'm encouraging people. Like you said, with my channel, I want to encourage and empower other people. And so on this side of raising kids, if I had it to do differently, I would have written a mission statement. I try to encourage people, write a mission statement, because when you hold your baby for the first time, you make all kinds of promises. We all tend to make promises, but hold yourself accountable to those promises.
What were the promises you made?
I mean, those were in my head. I didn't do it, but now, with clarity, I've been able to say, when things get tough, you do whatever you can. Because when you are holding them, you're like, I'm going to do everything I can for you. I'll be there for you. I'll listen to you, just all those different things. And I'll make sacrifices for you because you are what's important to me, and I want to pour into your life. And I think I did that with my career. I was never about upward mobility. I didn't want to be a manager. I loved the freedom of sales because it worked well with my kids, and I was decently successful at it, so that it also helped pay for things. But I wasn't trying to be super wealthy. That was never a goal of mine.
Are there like two or three moments before your kids went off to college that you feel like really shaped you as a father?
My daughter went close by, so it wasn't as big a deal. Honestly, when they moved away, sticks out more in my head because both of them went to school close by. Close enough within driving distance. Had they moved to Florida to go to school or something, that would have been difficult. But when my daughter moved away, she got married right out of college, met a great guy, and they're still married. They moved away to Knoxville when they were like 24, and I encouraged it though, but I was crying. My wife and I both were crying, like, this is ripping my heart out that you're going to be so far away, but good for you.
When you were officially an empty nester, do you remember like any kind of feeling overcoming you?
Definitely did, and I share that in my book. Honestly, I was a little bit lost, and I hate to say that because I'm sure everybody at some point feels a little bit lost and you hear a bit about midlife crisis and that sort of thing. But I think mine was a little bit different because my goal in my life was to raise good adults. I didn't have goals beyond that. I had none, and so I had to kind of reinvent myself because I was like, okay, this was my goal, and I feel like it's done. But I'm still fairly young, I'm in my 50s. I had to kind of, and I was grappling with that. And we went to Rome in 2019, and I was pondering that because you go there, and Rome was once an amazing city. It's still an amazing city, but don't get me wrong. But if you go there and you see all the ruins, it's like these were powerful people that were here and they're no longer here. It's interesting because I was kind of pondering that. What kind of legacy am I leaving? You know, I got my legacy of my 2 kids. I'm proud of that. But so it's kind of interesting how this kind of all came together with Dad, How Do I? Because I feel I'm so blessed to be able to have this legacy to pass along to the next generation on such a bigger scale than just my own kids.
When you were thinking about what your legacy, what like the legacy of this second chapter of your life would be, what were you thinking that it would be? Because like, did you have any idea of what you wanted it to be, what you wanted it to look like?
I didn't know. No, it's just, it was, honestly, it was sad to me to see that.
Can you tell me a little bit about how your daughter was encouraging you to take up YouTube? We'll get back to the podcast right after this break. We all have bad habits. Some of us, it's, not stacking the dishwasher, not taking out the trash, maybe picking your nose in the car when you think no one's looking, but everyone on the freeway can see it, including on the off chance one of your coworkers, which is just one way bad habits tend to find their ways into business. From emailing clients at who knows o'clock, or spending way too much time and money on legacy software your IT person grandfathered in. That stuff is old and needs to be destroyed. We're breaking up with bad business habits right now, right here. It's 2023. No bad business habits here. HubSpot's all-in-one CRM platform can help you get there. It makes it easy to better connect your teams, data, and systems so you can better connect with your customers. Best of all, it's free to get started. So learn how HubSpot can help your business grow better in 2023 at HubSpot.com. And now, back to the podcast.
Yeah, Christine is quite the encourager, and so she was telling me, because it's something I actually thought of, and I pictured, I had the name Dad, How Do I? But I also shared with her that I didn't want to just be pigeonholed to just, running around fixing things. I wanted to be able to share my heart too, and so I'm so grateful that my subscribers have responded to that. I have dad chats, I've read children's books, cooking, I've done all kinds of different things now that I never thought I'd be doing.
How did you decide to first take a stab at like recording something?
Yeah, so that was a little awkward, but I was locked up during the pandemic like everybody else, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I used my cell phone, and I still use my cell phone, but I took a cell phone and a holder that I had for my car with a suction cup on it, and I suction cupped that to my mirror in my bathroom and I showed how to tie a tie. That was the first video that I had.
And so when you uploaded that first video, what were your expectations?
I stick with this. I've said 30 or 40 people. I thought I was just going to have a nice tight community, and maybe get to 100. It took a couple weeks. And I was already up to 300, and I shared it with my daughter. I'm like, I can't believe that this is kind of resonating.
So you started taking requests from your audience. When did things like hit another inflection point?
It was about May 18th or so. Reddit got a hold of it, and somebody posted it on TikTok, and then somebody posted it on Facebook. Yeah, it was on Twitter. So somehow it just went ballistic. As an introvert, the next few weeks were really kind of terrifying for me because my face was everywhere. I didn't do this to become famous or switch jobs, and so I had no foundation for a plan. I just was trying to help people. I felt like my privacy was a little bit exposed. Suddenly my face is out there, and that's not, it's not something I was craving. I've got my feet under me now, over 2 years in, to where I'm good with it, and I'm grateful that I went viral for something wholesome and helpful.
As the channel got more and more subscribers, like I think 6 months after launching the channel, you had 2.8 million subscribers. So as you're reaching millions and millions of people, did you rethink how you wanted to move forward, right? Like you have these thoughts in Rome of like, okay, what do I want this second chapter of my life to look like? And it seems like it's like, okay, here is a potential opportunity on a silver platter. What do I make of it, and how do I dig into it?
It's I hate to say this, but I'm pretty conservative, and so I'm still working because I still we're 58, and I had planned on retiring at 60. We were aiming for 60 to retire a little bit early. But I am trying to, so there's a tension there. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what to do. But I did have an epiphany recently where I was planning to retire at 60, and I think we were on track to do that. But then had I retired at 60 from my job and I didn't have Dad, How Do I would be cutting off all income, and then I'd just have to rely on the money that we had. Whereas with this, I'll probably do this into my 70s, right? I'll be Grandpa, How Do I, or or what have you, great grandpa. Because really, it's fun and I enjoy it. And if it also, I would like to travel, and I think I could also do that with my channel, where I could show you how to go to certain places that we've been, and how we do it. So I think now that I finally understood that, I'm a little closer to leaving. I still haven't I haven't announced it to my work, so I got to be careful what I say. But I have understood that I think it's here to stay. It's over 2 years now. The scary thing with the internet is you see stuff come and go, and I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to, okay, I'm going all in. Oh, whoops. Now I'm 57 trying to figure things out. I am 58 now, turned 58 in May. We're that much closer to 60. I think the jumping off point is a little bit closer.
Yeah, and I think that's really exciting, and I think you you can do this. Into whatever age you want. So I think building the Dad, How Do I channels or spin-off channels could be massively impactful for a lot of people. So what do you see as the future of the channel? What are you most excited for?
Like I said, the traveling thing, I think that plays right into, we want to travel anyway. We had planned to, when we retire, to go travel. We've been trying to travel before we retire, but finally got, that's going to be happening. And actually, I have a new video actually coming out today, where I'm going to start, I'm going to have you watch me learn things, because my nephew he's very good at oil painting. And I've never oil painted in my life. I have now because I recorded this. So it's called Dad Learns to Oil Paint is this one. And then I'm going to start a series where I'm going to show you me learning things where I don't know how to do things. Because people have said that, Dad, what don't you know how to do? Because I've tried to open myself up to learning. I want to know, why not live your life that way, where I'll try that. And so I think it'll be a kind of a fun series but I'll also still continue the rest of my stuff, but you'll get to see me learning. I want to learn how to fly fish. I've never done that before. I've fished before, but I don't know how to fly fish. And so I thought it'll be fun. It'll be fun for me, whether people enjoy it or not. We'll see.
So what do you think, with this journey that we've gone over, what do you think your biggest learning lesson has been that you wish people would know, either about fatherhood or about creating this channel, going into content? What do you think your biggest learning lesson has been from this journey?
That's a tough one to just say the biggest, but some big things that I've learned. The one that I can think of off the top of my head is, again, I've always kind of considered myself an introvert, so I've kind of kept to myself. And now that I've kind of put myself out there, I think that's part of the charm, I think, of people are kind of on this, living vicariously through me as I'm going and interviewed Kevin Hart, and I've met Lester Holt, and I've talked to all kinds of famous people. And I think people, again, are living vicariously through me, because this wasn't intentional and it's happening. And so look at Dad, Dad's out there. So I think that's part of the charm. But I also think that, I think a lot of us have gifts that we're hiding, and that's what I found with this, is I feel like I have a bit of a gift to be able to share with people. And people said, oh, I wish you would have done this sooner. I wish I would have done it sooner too. And I think there's probably lots of people that are hiding their gifts because what do people think? All the different reasons why, or we procrastinate. I would encourage people to to try to live a life that's a little more risky with, calculated risk, I guess, where some people, maybe go too far with the risk and then it blows up on them. I think you got to be careful there, but I also want to encourage people to put themselves out there, because that's what I've done, and I've tried to say yes. I've just had this is so ironic. So I just got contacted about a company that wants to pitch me for paid speaking engagements, and I shared in my book that I'm a person that has avoided speaking engagements my whole life. I'll take the zero. I'll do whatever to not have to speak in front of people, and so it's a bit ironic that now. And I said I'll do it. Yes, I said yes, because you only live once. Let's go ahead and do it.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, rate the podcast 5 stars, and share with a friend. If you have any questions or comments, DM us at Finding Founders Podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook. Finding Founders is produced and hosted by me, Samuel Donner.
Our Chief of Staff and Operations is Jessica Lynn.
Our audio editing team lead is Adrian Tapia. Support from
Irene Van Berkel,
Matt Fernandez,
Nay Buchanan,
Sophia Donner,
David Saide,
Ashley Jimenez,
Nicholas Guzman,
Aaron Devereaux,
Sanessa Gisley,
and Lois Choi.
Our outreach and research lead is Kenney Ong, with support from
Sarah Hobson,
Charisse Tan,
Harushi Kanauchi,
Kristen Hagelin,
Aya Cortez,
and Valencia Lu.
Our writing team lead is Elizabeth Bowen, with support from
Aiden Ashworth,
Nikki McCullough,
Sophie Wang,
and Eric Meno.
Our design team lead is Shruti Ramanand, with support from
Tiffany Dane,
Yao Liu,
and Dina Gabriel.
To see more of what we're up to, subscribe to our newsletter at findingfounders.co. Thanks again for listening, and see you next week.